Yo, what is up guys? I'm Hesam here. In this tutorial we are going to talk about loops in Rust language. Rust has the three types of loops, which is loop, while, and for. And that's we're going to talk about them in this video. The simplest loop in Rust is using the loop syntax. If you write loop like this and place curly braces, you can put anything in between them, and all of the code in this block will be executed and executed and executed forever. So this block will be run forever. If I run the application, you can see here it's using highly CPU usage and printing hello world infinitely. So now I stopped the execution, but if you see here, let me show, the hello world is printed indefinitely here. So the loop in Rust simply runs this code forever. But if you want to get out of the loop, fortunately you can do it. You can use the break syntax. So when Rust is executing our code, when it sees the break, it will get out of the loop. So here you can see we have hello world one time, and there is no hello world after that. For example, we can examine this a little bit more. If I have a mutable variable called counter, and in the loop I'll add 1 to the counter, and here using if expression I can say if counter equals to 10, I want to break the code. So this will cause this hello world to be printed 10 times, and here you can see it's printed 10 times here. And one thing which is beautiful about loops in Rust is the loops are also expressions in Rust. For example, I can here define a variable called for example result, and here using the break syntax I can return anything that I want. For example, I will return counter times 2. So when we reach here, the counter is 10, and 10 times 2 is 20. So our output will be 20, and here if I print out the result, here we can see we have 10 times hello world, and now we have 20, which comes from this result here. This is very nice about loops in Rust, that they can return values. And another thing about Rust loops is that we can have multiple loops inside each other, and we can label them to using break to break individual loops. For example, if here I have a counter, and now if I declare another mutable variable called, for example, remaining, which is 10, now I can say, for example, remaining is remaining, and now I can say if remaining equals 9, break out of this loop that I will be created here, which is like this. So I have another loop here, and I have push all of this here, and now we have two loops inside each other. This break I want to break from this loop inside the top one, and this break this break I want to break out of the topmost loop here. So here I need to label this loop, which in Rust I should use a single quote with a label, which here is counting up, and a colon here, and now here I can break from counting up. Please note that this single quote here is important, and now I can say remaining minus equal 1 to subtract 1 from the remaining. Basically this will add up to counter in every iteration of this top level loop, and it will decrease the value of remaining in the innermost loop. Here you can see for the innermost loop I don't use labels, but for the top level I used label, and here the break will be break from the topmost, and here to get result faster I use 2, so the counter will be reached sooner. And here I can show the value of count, and now let's run the program. Oops, here I need to use the correct name of a variable, and now you can see we have remaining, which is 10, and then we reach here and subtract 1 from remaining, and when the remaining is 9, this section will break out of our loop, and we go up here to add another one to counter and start the inner loop from scratch, and when the remaining starts to check itself, after that we will check for counter, and because the counter is now 2, we will get out of the topmost loop, and here we have the result of counter. So this is loops in Rust. Let's talk about while loops in Rust. Let's say we have a mutable number which is 3. I can use the while loop with a condition here. As long as this condition is true, this condition must be Boolean. As long as this condition is true, the body of while loop will be executed. So here my condition is as long as number is not 0, run this code here. As you remember, this is an exclamation mark and then an equal sign, which is together. So as long as the number is not 0, run this code here and print my number here, and then decrease the value of number by 1. So this will goes like 3, 2, 1, and then when it reaches 0, it will not run this code and get out of the loop. So here you can see it's 3, 2, 1, and then finish at the execution of the loop. So while loops are basically the same as loops, but we don't need to use if expressions and break syntax to break out of the loop. Here just we have a condition, and when this condition is met, we will break out of the while loop. So let's have another example here. If I create an array here, for example, we have 10, 20, 30, and 40 and 50, and if we keep track of index of this array, we can print all of the numbers in this array. As long as index is higher than 0, we can access the value of elements in this array. So for example, we can say the value is, and here from the numbers I can put index, and here I will add another one to index, and this should be 5. So as long as the index is lower than 5, we will get each value from here step by step, 10, 20, and so on. So here, if I run the project, you can see we have a error here because we need to increase index, not the numbers. So here you can see the value is 10, 20, and so on. This is simple, but it's a little bit cumbersome because we may introduce problems in our code. As you see, I forgot to use index here, and I used wrong variables. And for example, if later on we change the length of this array, we may have problems. Here you can see because we have only 4 items in the array, and we try to get the 5th item. Rust panicked here and says that we don't have the 5th item in the array, so we should change this to 4. But this is kind of hard to manage in futures. So for the simplicity, Rust introduced for loops which we can use like this. We have a list here, for example, numbers, and we can extract elements from this list, and here I can use this code. The value is number, and I don't need this while here and this index here. So simply using this section, we can have the same result with much better code. And if I add another item here, you can see now it's printed without any problems. So this for loop is very simple, that most Rustaceans are prefer to use it even for simple operations like counting from numbers. They use something like this, and for example this will count from 1 to 5, as you can see here, but that's exclusive. And if you want to reverse that, you can use the .rev function here, and this will count in reverse. So the for loop is commonly used in Rust, and we will use that in future videos. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and like and share our videos. See you in the next one. Peace out.